So we
We're
are
live right now. We're live right now, Cody
hey,
Newberry. Stop talking those bad things.
Shut up, Robert. Welcome to Your List Sucks. This is my favorite time of the week because I get to yell at people and have a great time. Tonight we are talking about an interesting topic called Pixar characters. I didn't want to do Pixar movies and I didn't want to do worst of Pixar. I wanted to actually break down what I think Pixar is the best at is creating memorable characters. I put out this topic. I expected a lot more response, but apparently some people were busy. So I had to call upon a Hobbit to join me. I already reached out to Boatman and Maggie, so they were already my people that I wanted on this list. So first, we'll go to the person that I didn't want on this list because his opinion he thinks is right more than me. Robert Parker, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm the backup pick that nobody actually wants here. I just, you needed another person on the panel. But I'm excited to be here with this old person and see how similar our lists are because they were pretty close last time we were on together.
Yeah, they were pretty close. I was going to invite Tim, but Tim and Maggie would probably be pretty close, so I wanted to avoid that. And Maggie's her own person, so I wanted to include her by herself. So, Maggie, how are you? How are you doing today? And are you excited to talk about Pixar characters?
Yeah, I'm good. This list was really, really hard to make. So, I'm going to caveat it with, pretty much anyone can go anywhere. Ranking them was really difficult. So, yeah.
Some people wanted me to do, some people in this chat wanted me to do duos. And I figured that would be a cop-out, so I decided
let's break cop-out.
Let's break them up and let's have a blast. Boatman, I don't normally like you, but you have an opinion on Pixar, so I wanted to include you. Boatman, how are you feeling about Pixar characters, and do you think your list sucks?
My list is hot garbage, but it's mine. It's a thing. It's garbage, but it's my garbage. All my picks are very personal. I have very weird reasons for why I like these characters more than maybe some of the more popular ones, and we'll get into that.
Well, how the show works is basically I have no dog in this race. All I pretty much get to do is berate each one of you and tell you that where you're wrong and not tell you where I personally would put stuff on my list. This week's episode is going to be less tense than last week's episode with old Ryan Permison and Kaleb Koho on the panel. They were screaming at each other. I probably will not let him be a host ever again because he pretty much just took it as a dictator. So basically how the show is going to work, each person is going to reveal their personal top 10 list of where they have these characters, give a brief summary, and then it's going to be kind of open discussion, how people feel like, are they crazy? Do I see your point? Blah, blah, blah. So we're going to start with actually Maggie. So basically how it's going to break down is we're going to go through 10 through 8 for each person, and then we'll go 7 through 4, one at a time. And then 1. We'll trade 3s, 2s, and 1s. If you have it on your list, please speak up, but include your 10, 9, 8 will be pretty much together. So don't waste all your time talking about the bottom, but save it for your top. So go ahead, Maggie. Tell us what your 10, 9, 8 is.
Yeah, so my 10 is Marlin from Finding Nemo.
Does anybody have Marlin?
I have that higher. We're talking about that later.
Yeah, I have Marlin at 9. Oh, and Robert has it higher.
We're talking about that a little bit
later.
Okay.
So then my number 9 is Buzz.
I have that higher.
Right. I also have that higher.
This is going to go quick, guys.
That's fine.
Number 8 is Sully from Monsters, Inc.
That's a surprising choice because you were the only one on the panel to have Sully on your list.
That's so sad.
Which I think is 100% accurate, and the rest are wrong. But please tell me why you included Sully on your list. And Robert and Kaleb, get ready to defend yourself.
So a lot of it, honestly, was influenced by Tim. When I was trying to put together this list while I was intoxicated, I was like, Tim, who do I include?
She's not her own person.
If I only include or Sully, which one do I include? And he was he made this great case for Sully, basically about how his arc in the first movie over realizing that he cares for Boo and wanting to protect her and doing anything to save her from this world that he's in, and realizing that everything that he's ever known is wrong and that this system that he supports is trash. So I really like that part of him, and I really love Monsters University, and I think that him and Mike are really good together in that movie. And I think just including that part of him, thinking that he's hot shit and then becoming more humble by the end of that movie, and then including that in the arc from Monsters Inc. It's just a beautiful story for that character.
Yeah, Sully is a surefire pick for me as well. I actually attach probably more to Sully than Mike. For the simple fact is Sully is like what you exactly said, as this person that has trained to do one thing, and to realize that he loves something beyond what he's been trained to do his entire life, and how pretty much he melts to Boo as this big giant scary thing. It's brilliant. I think it's amazing. Shame on Robert and Caleb. Please tell me, yes, I saw your little screensaver. You can defend that later, but I'm asking why Sully? Why did you not include Sully on this list, even in your bottom?
So he was the last one I had when I made a short list before I started ranking. I made a short list. I had about 18 characters on there that could vie for my top 10. And then I had to start cutting. He was the last one I cut out of my top 10. And the reason is I agree with everything that Maggie just said about him in Monsters, Inc. And I also like Monsters University. We saw it together in 2013. I remember seeing it like that. I like in the cross. Yeah, I like that movie. My thing is, in Monsters University, I don't think he's humbled enough by the end of that movie, because he cheats in the scare games.
Yeah, but he does
and
it
then
for his friend.
Right, but then he gets away with it. Like,
he doesn't get away with it.
He does, though, because
he does not get away with it, Robert.
They're expelled.
Yeah, he has to work in the mailroom.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
Jesus.
Ultimately, the 10 characters that I put on instead, I have a more personal attachment with, and I think their arcs are a little bit better. But everything she said is true about Sully, and also, I can't argue with him being on the list.
This is why I like Maggie, because she calls you out on your bullshit. Basically, what you're saying is he literally gave up his rightful place to be one of the top people to help his friend out, and now he has to work
in the mailroom. To help himself. He definitely joined those scare games to help himself.
It was help himself, but let's be honest, Mike wanted it more than him. Mike was the leader of the team, and
so there's something on this list that most people don't get. You guys don't know each other's list. I get to see them. Boatman, please explain yourself.
Okay, yeah. As far as why I don't have Sully on the list, Sully's a good, friendly, kind of good protagonist. I think because he's more supposed to be a bit of like a blank slate for like the audience to project themselves on. And I think Pixar does do those characters very well. They make them feel more than just a blank slate. But I think, like I said, there are characters that do that better. I think he's still a really good character. I just think there are characters that do that better.
Well, yeah, that's really great, because you're going to go next. Please tell me your 10 through 8, and you are currently on trial, just to let you know.
Okay, well, these are not characters that do that thing better, except I would say, well, one of them. But number 10 is a very personal, a very unique pick. Cody's already to kill me. I'm going with Anton Ego from Ratatouille.
That's a very popular choice.
Okay.
I don't have it, but it was in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The internet.
Okay, thank you, Maggie.
Yeah.
Anyway, Anton.
Hold on. That's not how my show works. You need to go 9, 10.
Oh, I was thinking
you need to go 10, 9, 8, and then see if anybody else has them.
He's a food critic. Okay, then yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. 9 is Marlon. 9 is Marlon.
Yeah, we got to talk about it later.
Oh, yeah. And then 8 is Jesse.
That's higher for me.
Okay.
That is not on my list.
Okay, so we will talk about my only viewpoint is you picked the villain from Ratatouille, which
he's not really the villain.
Whatever. Okay, he's not the villain. He's the food critic. That shows, but at the end of the day, like a character that is in it like shows up, has the memorable part, but is better than Sully from Monsters Inc.
Fair.
Yeah, like I said, I think Sully is a type of character that they've done better. Like they've done that specific type of character better. I've never seen them really tackle this type of character before, where he's kind of mean, but you can kind of understand why. But then he has that really great monologue at the end of the movie with the narration, as far as like, I finally kind of understand what Gusto meant by anyone can cook, and really what he was meaning is that a great, cook can come from anywhere. A great artist can come from any situation. And I think that monologue really works. And I think kind of seeing his arc going from this more kind of tough, mean demeanor and that kind of slowly changing into the more nuanced critic that we know him at the end of the movie.
Okay. Well, your list sucks right now, so that's fair.
But I said it was going to. So.
I mean, a great monologue. That you're right. It sold me.
Monologue.
He does, but I'm
He's
sorry.
what motivates the characters,
and that makes a great
character. Listen, Maggie. I'm telling you right now. I'm looking at this list, and I'm telling you right now. Stand with me.
Okay.
This sucks. Okay. So
I agree with you.
We'll wait. Robert, give me your 10, 9, 8.
Pause off. So my number 10 is Miguel from Coco.
That's higher for me.
Higher? Okay.
My number 9 is Joy from Inside Out.
Also higher for me.
We'll talk about it later. My number 8 is Syndrome.
Fuck you.
That's higher.
Hey, yeah, it is.
It was in my honorable mentions.
Absolutely. Your list sucks. All right.
Okay, so we've talked about the bottom half. Now we're gonna go to Maggie. We're gonna start at 7.
Okay.
And then say it. If no one has it, then start talking about it. If somebody has it, wait. Okay, so what's your 7?
Wait, repeat. Robert was making fun of me. I didn't hear what you just said.
So 7. See if anybody has it. If they don't have it, talk about it. If they don't, move on. Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, so my 7 is Mike Wazowski, also from Monsters Inc.
Higher.
All right. So now my number.
Yeah, you're number 6.
What comes
Remy.
after 7? Remy is also my number 7.
Cool.
Wait, what?
Remy from Ratatouille.
Oh, Remy is my number 6.
Look at that, guys.
We're in the same
So that
area.
means we can talk about it.
We can talk about Remy. Go ahead.
So a lot of how my list shook out was how much I like the movie. And Ratatouille is I think it's my number 3. I love Ratatouille. It is so good. And part of that is definitely, obviously, the main character, Remy, trying to break the mold, trying to be his own rat. And then his relationship with, what's his face? Whose name I can't remember right now. Linguini. His relationship with Linguini is really special. And it's really cute. And then his relationship with his family is really interesting. And when you were saying projecting yourself onto characters, I feel like that part of it, a lot of people can relate to. And then, just coming around and compromising basically with the human world and with the rat world and finding a happy ending. It is beautiful.
All right. Yeah, Remy. I think this is the perfect spot for Remy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he's in the top 3, I think it's ridiculous to me. Because I like the character a lot. I love Ratatouille. I just think Ratatouille, I've rewatched it just recently. I find it boring at times. And I don't know if that's just because the cooking elements are they're so in love with the actual cooking and besides the character development for me. But I think it's beautiful. I think the score and stuff make that movie really, really really well. I think the character Remy's the most standout for me in that movie by far. That's why I don't believe Anton should be on the list at all. But
he's only at number 10. Only at number 10.
Yeah, and Sully has to sit outside the cold because you hate him. You banished him off your list. Tell me, Boatman, I know you're probably the biggest fan of Remy on the call, or of Ratatouille.
Yeah,
so go ahead and
my favorite.
Tell me why actually Remy ranks lower for you than in the top tier, because it is your favorite.
Again, I think, Remy is one of those more kind of blank slate characters. He's one of those blank slate characters like Sully and all that. And I do really like him as a character, and I like his journey, and I like his arc. I think that the side characters are sometimes a lot more interesting and a lot more fascinating. The ones that are allowed to be less of like just the good, friendly protagonist. The ones that are allowed to have a bit more flaws. But Ratatouille is a great character from my favorite Pixar movie ever.
Okay. And Robert, you had it one spot lower, but tell us after you're done shoveling popcorn in your mouth.
I'm done now. So first off, I didn't realize I was on the call with 2 Evan DeGraffs. That's neat. That hasn't happened in a couple of years.
I don't know who this person is. Every time I bring up Ratatouille, somebody says Evan DeGraff. Who the heck is Evan DeGraff?
It was before your time.
It's probably good you don't know. Go ahead.
No, I really like Ratatouille too. Ratatouille is one that I haven't rewatched in a long time. Like it's been 3-4 years since I've seen that movie. I really need to go back and see it again. But from what I do remember, I really, really like the character. If we're talking voice acting performances in a Pixar movie, this is in the top 2 probably. Patton Oswalt kills it. Yeah. Jinx.
It's like you're related.
Patton Oswalt is fantastic as Remy in this movie. The visuals really by Brad Bird and the whole crew back up everything that he's saying. There's just so much there's such a jovial nature to this character. And it really carries you through this movie. So I love Remy. Not in my I think top 5 is pushing it just because there's so many great Pixar characters. Yeah. You guys have him at 6. I think that's a pretty good spot. I just have 1 spot lower.
That's fair. All right. Your next one, Maggie.
Oh shit. All right. My next one is Miguel from Coco.
All right. I think
are we talking about
Robert had it.
Not because he had
and Bowman didn't have it.
All right. All right. So we're talking about it?
Yes.
Okay. So like I said, when we started talking about Remy, definitely the movies influenced where I put characters, and Coco is my favorite Pixar movie. So obviously I put the main character on my list. I just think that this young boy who's never done a movie before absolutely killed it as Miguel, doing the voice acting and doing the singing. And I just love, the journey he takes. Obviously, he's stubborn, he's headstrong, he doesn't want to conform to what his family wants him to do, and he learns that maybe his family really is looking out for him, and just his relationship with Hector, finding out that's his great grandfather or great grandfather or whatever, is really cute. His whole
grandfather.
It's great grandfather or great grandfather.
It's Mama Coco's
it's his
father.
Yeah, who's his great grandmother?
Great grandfather. It doesn't matter.
Anyway. Just he has all the relationships with all of the characters, and I like it a lot. His relationship with his great grandmother, realizing that she really is looking out for him, and her reasons for doing what she did were valid and understandable as a human person. And then his relationship with what's his face?
Hector?
No, I said Hector already. Well, yes, Dante is wonderful. No, the villain. Spoilers.
Ernesto de la Cruz.
Yeah, the way that he always looks up to him, and then just having that, hero that you've always held up on a pedestal just come down.
That's Maggie for me.
Right? And then just the scene at the end where he's singing to her just kills me. So.
Okay. Yeah. So Miguel is one of these characters that I've said this before in other shows that Coco took me totally by surprise. I had 0 expectations for this movie going in. I thought it looked beautiful, but besides Inside Out, I didn't like Cars 3. I didn't like Good Dinosaur. I wasn't a big fan of Finding Dory. There was a lot leading up to it that kind of made me a little hesitant. Is Pixar still going to be what Pixar is? Yeah. And then this movie, I went and saw it, and I think it's one of the first Pixar movies in a while that made me actually cry. I think it was just I think it's just a beautiful story, and it takes you by surprise. It's probably up there with Good Dinosaur of visually how beautiful the movie honestly is. And I think Miguel's character, yeah, you said that it's his first performance, and you couldn't tell at all throughout it. It's one of those surprise ones Moana as well. Yeah. Just to have that voice acting just burst on the scene and just be there, it's insane. So yeah, Miguel is a great choice for this. Robert, you also had it.
Yep. And
we'll get to Boatman why he hates Coco in a second. So
yeah, so Coco is for all intents and purposes practically a perfect movie. It's an incredible movie, and I think Miguel is a real big part of that. It's my number 10, I think, mainly because I haven't, like, the character is great and the story's told through a child's eyes and you're really able to, like, understand the world through that. But I think the movie surrounding the character is what is really, really standout. I think Miguel's great, but I think the movie around it is fantastic. So you have to put him in there for sure, but I have it a little bit lower for that reason. I think the scene where he sings Un Poco Loco during, like, the talent show is probably the best scene in the movie, in my opinion. It's my favorite scene. It's my favorite scene showcasing Miguel as a character.
Okay.
Asterisk. There we go. I fixed it.
I needed that.
Showcases Miguel as a character when he sings to Mama Coco at the end. That's brilliant. His relationship with Dante is so fun. The movie is just so fun and amazing and beautifully visually, like you said. And Miguel's a great character. He's another one of those characters that you can really relate to no matter your age or where your background is. Like, he is just that kind of likable protagonist. So he absolutely makes my list just a little bit further down because all these characters I just like slightly more.
Yeah, and it also has that new factor, like maybe you haven't seen it as much, or maybe like some of these some Pixar's been around for a long time, and you've had these characters built for a while.
Yeah,
Miguel's new, so and I kind of agree with you. Miguel has the world of Coco is brilliant. Best scene, that was an interesting one, but I'm glad you covered it with the correct scene afterwards. But Boatman, explain yourself. Why do you hate Coco, and why do you hate like brilliant movies?
I actually really like Coco. I didn't like Coco, or I shouldn't even say that. I didn't like Coco as much as everybody else did when I came out of the theater. Upon rewatch, I actually really appreciated it and really saw a lot more in that movie. I think Miguel's a fine character. Again, he's just kind of the good guy protagonist, and I think he's a little too similar to Remy, actually. I think it's a bit too similar of a character to Remy, where he's got the artistic area that he's passionate for, and he's got a clash with the family and doing that. And I know it's not like a carbon copy or anything, but it's similar, and he's not like super complex as a protagonist. I think he's a good character. I don't think he's top 10 of all time material. I wouldn't even say he's the best character in that movie. I would say Hector, probably.
Hector.
You know what? I can't wait till somebody on your list comes up in a second so you can kind of defend yourself. One more for Maggie, and then we'll move on to Boatman.
All right. Sorry, I gotta open my computer back up. Oh,
no.
Stupid.
Wait, we're doing 7 through 4?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Which, yeah.
So
go ahead.
We're not even going to talk about this right now anyway.
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say.
Is Woody from Toy Story franchise.
Yeah, way higher.
Okay. Tried to see I didn't know it was going to be that like you had to get it back up. So I was like, if you had it right away, I would have just saved you the time. All right. So Boatman, please tell me your 7 through 4.
Okay. 7 through 4. Okay. My number 7 is Sid from Toy Story.
I'm going to stop this broadcast.
Exactly. Okay. So I have the biggest problem in the world with this. I'm not even going to let you explain yourself because right now I am actually pissed off. So I will just throw everything to the side right now, just to let everybody know. Lots of Hug and Bear is not on your list. Neither is Prospector Pete. So you decided the one kid that is in 15 minutes of the movie that acts like a total
I don't care about screen time length, Cody.
Okay. Your whole thing is like, he's just a protagonist. He's literally just the thing of evil. He's just the plot point to
No, he isn't, though. I know, you're saying this.
Okay, we'll let you talk in a second, but you please shut your mouth right now because you're upsetting me. So he literally just is the thing to make to torture toys, to get the toys to rise up and to escape the backyard and to go back to Andy. Like he actually puts the pieces in place. But other than that, you get nothing of this character besides like he's a troubled, angry kid that likes to blow up toys because apparently he just is angry. Like you don't see this development, you don't see anything of this character, and you're saying like Miguel and Sully are two characters that are like thrown up, like forced on you.
I didn't say that they were forced on me.
Okay, please defend yourself. Why Sid is just brilliant and beats Jesse, Marlon, and Antonigo.
Okay, I think Sid is on there because we all know somebody who was this kid back in elementary school. I think look, Cody, let me talk. Let me
Koho,
talk.
I literally did not say anything.
You
Koho, please finish.
gave that Cody look. I'm gonna take you off my screen and put Robert Maggie on so that I don't have to look at your face. Okay.
We both just start flipping them off. That would be fantastic.
We're just making snide comments underneath our breath.
We were.
That's fine. I don't care.
We knew about this whole show.
Cody's look just intimidates me sometimes. Anyway, what I was saying was that I think Sid is actually a really kind of complex element to the story because, let's face it, he doesn't know he's the bad guy. He doesn't think he's the bad guy. He's just a kid. He doesn't understand the concepts, and I think that actually makes him really fascinating, and I think that is kind of an element as to why Toy Story as a whole is such a brilliant thing, because it takes the natural elements from childhood and being a kid and playing with toys and kind of finds the more cinematic elements out of that. And I think understanding why Sid as a character is such an interesting villain.
Sid, something you just throw you throw that storyline behind him, and that's fine, but there's actually characters that show like development and they get plot points to deliver them. How Toy Story pays him off? He's a pizza delivery guy.
Okay, I don't care about amount of screen time.
I'm not talking about screen time. They don't justify the character. You're telling me you understand that he's not the villain. Like, he doesn't understand he's the villain. But guess what? Toy Story never pays off Sid as a character. He runs away screaming, and next time we see him delivering pizzas. Like, it's not a payoff. So we're still sticking.
He's not even delivering pizzas.
Okay, he's never the payoff. I'm just gonna skip. Do you guys have anything to say about Sid? Like, why?
I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, where, like, he's just, like, a kid and he doesn't realize that the toys are alive and the destruction that he's causing. But I wouldn't include him over other characters.
Yeah, I said it to me. I think he's arguably the least complex of any Pixar villain. Because, like, you're right, he is just, like, a kid who tortures toys.
I mean, he doesn't know the toys are alive, and I think that's what makes him really interesting.
Right, that's what makes the story surrounding him interesting. I don't think that makes the character itself more complex. But I
think I probably, if I had that Cody Newberry on my shoulder telling me no, he probably.
In the realms of Toy Story villains, I feel like he is the bottom of the characters.
I feel like Lotso and Stinky Pete kind of cancel each other out for being too similar.
Well, that's fine, but still, Stinky Pete did it first, so you can give him the extra. It's fine. Let's go to your next one. Well, oh wait, I thought I was going to be done being mad at you, but I'm still mad. So Remy was your 6. Tell us what your 5 is.
My number 5 is Wally. I don't know why you're mad about that.
Not on my list.
It's not on my list, but I respect your choice.
I don't.
Okay. Thank you, Meg.
I don't. Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us why Wally.
Wally is a character that you understand everything he's thinking and feeling and emoting with just only being able to say like 2 words. I think that's really great. I think the animation, everything, the expressiveness, you really feel Wally as a character without him ever able, to speak, in long sentences. So I think Wally really works as a character for that reason. And I think it's a really fun, simple design. It's a cute character. And yeah.
Okay. I hate Wally with a passion. Just because it just never clicked with me. No, I would not say he's top 10. I probably wouldn't say he's top 20. I think it's a very boring character. But I get what you're saying. Like, I understand. Like, there's different people that are in the Wally camp, and there's people in my camp, and I understand if I'm in the minority. But I don't like Wally. I wouldn't even put him. I definitely wouldn't put him higher than Marlon or Jesse. I think that's where, or Remy. I think Wally is below those characters just because of the gravitate, like the other character, especially Marlon. I think Marlon is a very underrated character, but we'll talk about that later. Anybody else has anything about Wally?
I mean, I think he's really cute, and I like him, and I agree with pretty much everything that Boatman said about how he really drives the story, and he really like says nothing. And upon rewatch of Wally recently, I forgot how like cute and entertaining the movie is. It almost loses itself when we focus on things that aren't Wally.
Yeah.
So I think that speaks really strongly for him. Again, I wouldn't put him so high, but I did originally have him on my list.
Well, I'm glad your list sucks less because you don't have Wally. Robert, do you have anything to say about Wally?
I'm more in your camp. Cody, Wally's a movie that never really clicked for me. To be fair, I also haven't sat down and watched it in like 6+ years. But
it doesn't do anything.
Wally's not a movie when it came out. Like I've seen it a couple times, but it's never one that I went back to a lot. It's never one that the characters really spoke to me. And it's for the reason that, like we just said, the first half of that movie, pretty awesome. And then the second half just dies down to a slog. And like, it's not Wally's as a character. It's not his fault. It's just the movie around him. But overall, yeah, Wally's not. He wasn't in my top 15 of my like short list. He was the first one I cut, actually.
Okay, so Boatman, thank you for this next one because you redeemed yourself. It's time to talk about the character we couldn't talk about earlier. So go ahead, Boatman and Robert.
Okay, yeah, it's the greatest Pixar villain of all time, in my opinion, Syndrome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Incredible. Get it right.
Or Buddy.
Buddy, either.
Go ahead. Tell us why Syndrome.
Yeah. So basically, I think Syndrome, first off, powerful voice work from Jason Lee, who does it perfect. He's basically evil Brody, from Mallrats, and I think that's kind of hilarious. And just the concept of he's this kind of a little obsessive comic book fanboy who was told no by his hero, and now he's taking revenge and wanting to become the most powerful thing. I think that's a really relatable concept, especially, this is gonna sound really mean, but with some of the people in this community who take things a little too seriously, I feel like Syndrome isn't too far off for some people.
Not going to touch that one. I couldn't agree more with you, though. If somebody rises up at one point with a super suit and tries to take over the fan communities, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, yeah, honestly. But yeah, I think that Syndrome, there's the joke that Guy Pearce's character in Iron Man 3 is basically Syndrome. And I think because it's such a strong
I've never heard that before, and that's incredible. Aldrich Killian is Syndrome.
Yes.
You're not wrong. You're not.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, you got more?
No, basically.
Robert?
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely nailed it. The voice work is great. The villain is relatable because we've all been that kid who got disappointed by somebody we looked up to. Like, that has all happened. Whether, you may not have been a superhero trying to, like, stop Bomb Voyage or something, but, like, you were a kid and you were let down by somebody that you trusted. And that is so relatable. It's deep. And Brad Bird Incredibles is my favorite Pixar movie. And I think Syndrome is in the top 2, maybe 3 Pixar villains. I think his arc is amazing and how he learns, even at the end when the Omnidroid is attacking the city, he realizes the faults of his ways and he like tries to go back on it, but it's too late. He tries to fight against the Omnidroid, but it attacks him first. I think that's really powerful, like understanding when you've made mistakes. And yeah, I think Syndrome is a great layered character. I think of the early Pixar villains, I'm talking like pre-2005, so like Incredibles and before, I think he is the most layered, the most complex Pixar villain.
Yeah, Syndrome is one of those characters that made me really laugh out loud in a Pixar movie for like the first time. Like, I think Waternoose is like really scary in Monsters Inc.
Yeah, Waternoose is good.
Like, turns into a psychopath and like banishes them, and like Randall and stuff. You get those characters. But I think Syndrome is like that one, has that person that lets you down. He is definitely the funniest villain too. Because like when he grabs Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl and like was like, what? They got busy. I think that's great. I think the whole BS line was awesome too. Like you can't be going around with big old BS on your chest. Just some classic parts. Maggie, why do you hate Syndrome and think he's a terrible character?
Any villains on your list?
No, I don't.
Well,
he was in my honorable mentions. I honestly wasn't even thinking of him because I was thinking about protagonists. I wasn't really thinking about villains. But I agree with everything that you guys have said. I would say he's the strongest Pixar villain. Like I don't know who I would say is stronger. Who?
Oh,
it's high on my list.
A villain?
Mm-hmm.
All right then. Well, I mean, I just think that I just remember that he always stuck with me as like a character and as a villain, and he does have layers and all of those things that people are missing.
I couldn't agree more. I think Syndrome was the correct choice. You didn't redeem yourself, Boatman. You're still terrible. But with your list.
Well, we knew that already, though.
I just love when I put a Kaleb on this show. It's guaranteed to at least have one list that sucks. So I appreciate that. Before we move on real quick, I'm just going to shout out the chat. Just to let people know that's watching. We have Nico, Jonathan Peck, Nazaria was here, Brian was here. Brian did have something. He said Sid on Boatman's list is like Ryan not having Mary Poppins on his Disney live action list. Yikes. And then somebody said something about Evan DeGraff. So we're out of there now. The next one, we're going to Robert. So
all right. So my number 7 was Remy. My number 6 is Elastigirl.
Higher.
Okay. My number 5 is the other villain-ish character that I think is extremely complex, and that's Randall. I think the voice performance by Steve Buscemi is great. I think him being Mike Wazowski's roommate, I think Randall in Monsters University is the best prequel, like, backstory to a villain we've ever seen in film history.
But that's the only reason that you think he's a layered villain is because of Monsters University.
Right, so are we just going to pretend like that movie doesn't exist? You're right, that movie exists and it makes him layered. You're right, absolutely.
But he's not a villain in that movie.
He's a villain in Monsters, Inc., though.
I don't know, man.
Is he just misunderstood in Monsters, Inc.?
To me, Randall is more scary in Monsters, Inc. When I saw that as a child, Randall's more scary than Water News. When he puts in that machine that's gonna suck the screams out, that is horrifying. Water News, watching it as an adult, is more intimidating because he's like this business tycoon. He's all about business. He doesn't care about his employees. There's lots of like legal violations that happen there. But like as just a straight up, I'm gonna scare the fudge out of some children. Can we swear on the show? Probably. It's multiple.
Sure.
Did we already?
I did.
Yeah, Maggie's went crazy.
As a monster who's going to say, I'm going to scare the fuck out of some kids, Randall is the scariest. When I watched Pixar movies as a kid,
it's not about who's the scariest. It's about
but that makes him a good character. His powers are great. The voice acting is great. He's complex because he has moments of like kindness and affection towards both Mike and Sully in Monsters, Inc., and you get more of that backstory as to why that kindness exists in Monsters University. I think Randall is a very layered character, and he's very underrated as a Pixar character, and I have no shame with him in my number 5 spot.
Yeah, I think Randall's a very interesting character choice. I think you're right. I think it also might be an age thing. Is why I also I mentioned earlier that why I don't like the new remake of Aladdin. Like when I was old, like when Monsters Inc. came out, I was 10, give or take. So like I saw it different. Water News was the one that scared me. Randall was just like the guy that got bested. And I think you're right, that like machine that they put it on is scary, but I think of those characters, I think there are better ones out there. Just in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's right.
But I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a terrible choice. Terrible choice is having Sid on your list. Randall is like maybe just didn't hit with other people. Like Randall, I think Steve Buscemi's character is probably one of the best acting performances in there. I do think Monsters University helps that character because if you just have the solo one, you don't he doesn't make a list. But with Monsters University, you see, I just think maybe he's misunderstood.
Yeah.
Not.
He's probably a little too high in retrospect. I probably should have put him a little bit lower. But like at number 5 is probably a little bit high. But I wanted to talk about him because even in Monsters University, like we see him with his like nerd glasses and he's like making cupcakes for frats.
Yeah, because he's not wearing his glasses.
He makes cupcakes for frat
but
boys.
I feel like that undermines.
I think
absolutely
because he's not wearing his glasses. That
absolutely
undermines.
Not.
Hold on. I think the problem with Monsters University, I think the one movie that ruins Randall is Monsters University, because Monsters University shows him at a different point. Like now, I don't feel like when I watch Monsters University, I'm like, I don't blame Randall. Like at times, like Randall has been pushed around and beat down. Like I would cheat too to try to get their success, because why? I've been treated like crap every other time. So why he tried to be nice and it didn't work for him. So basically, turned into an asshole. Is basically
that's like I think that shows like how he got to his point where he is in Monsters Inc. And I just like that progression.
That's right. Boatman, Randall, not on your list. Why?
Basically, I think you kind of hit it on the head with Monsters University, the cupcakes, and I don't know. I think I personally don't even really like Monsters U all that much. I think it's fine.
Hate it.
And I think that just, as a character, he's good. Steve Buscemi's always fantastic, but he doesn't make my list over some other villains.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead, take it away for more, Robert.
Yep, and my number 4 is Buzz. Can we talk about it?
When do we?
No, we'll talk.
If it's above 4, we talk about it later.
Okay.
So we'll talk about him later.
It's higher still? Okay. So.
Yep. Okay, so far, not bad on the list. I don't have really much complaints so far. But let's go into number 3. Maggie, take it away with your 3.
My 3 is Jessie from Toy Story 2 and 3.
Anybody else got Jessie any higher?
Not on my list.
Jessie was my number 8.
I didn't hear what she said, but I will.
I don't know if the mic picks that up, but it's best if that isn't said again.
Gosh, I wish I can. Can you tell me after stream?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
No, I said it's not on my list, and she goes, "Oh, so you hate women, then?"
That's accurate, though. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead,
I think that obviously Toy Story 2 is only the second Pixar movie, so it's not really fair for me to say that she was the first strong female character in the studio's history, but she is. And
what about Bo Peep? What about Bo Peep?
She's strong. She exists for
what about Andy's mom? She's a single, independent woman just trying to raise 2.
Yeah, you haven't thought about Andy's mom. Right. Is that your number 1? Let me check real quick.
All right. Back to Jessie.
We're done.
As a very young child, I watched Toy Story 2 all the time.
We did watch that movie a lot.
I always identified with Jessie as like being a cowgirl and being just like tomboyish and whatever. Fuck off, Robert. Stop with this nonsense. And that song where she gets abandoned, I like.
When She Loved Me, oh yeah,
is so good. Just her feelings. Her dealing with abandonment and then how that projects on her relationship with Woody and how she eventually has to come around and understand that not everyone is going to abandon you. I think it's a great message that I took to heart as a child, and that is why she is so high on my list.
I will also say I have no problems with Jessie being this high. I love Toy Story 2 is my favorite Toy Story by far, and I think it's personally in my top 5 like Pixar movies. When Somebody Loved Me is one of the most heartbreaking songs in most animated movies, because I think I've said this before. I think Inside Out borrows that pretty much abandonment or like the loss of the toys or lost emotions or memories. And uses it towards Jessie, because like Jessie, if you think about it in that world, Jessie had somebody that loved and only cared about her for so long, and then she was forgotten and left behind. And we've all been there. I always say Toy Story ranks higher for me for most people because I was the same age when Andy got, Buzz Lightyear. I was going to college when when you know that. So it always has resonated me with that. And to forget a toy and thinking like, oh crap, I forgot toys before. If this was real life, I would have ruined those toys' life because they only care about one person. You can just care about the next toy that comes up. And that song and her struggle in 2 to understand why Woody wants to go back when she has been left is so damaging and so heartbreaking. Like, I love that scene. I think it's a perfect placement, honestly, for Jesse. Strong in women empowerment or not, I think this is a perfect placement. I understand, especially for you, where that would have resonated for you when you were little, especially. So perfect choice. Boatman, you don't hate women, but you hate them a little bit because you had her at 8. So tell us why she just didn't make it higher on your list. Like, why is that character not higher?
I think everything you've said about Toy Story 2, Jesse, is 100% correct. She's a fantastic in Toy Story 2. Toy Story, Sarah McLachlan, fantastic. That song makes me cry. That sequence makes me cry. She's just kind of there in Toy Story 3. That's my problem.
She's lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and that's really, I think she had a little bit more to do in Toy Story 3 and actually like had more character in that one, I think she would have been top 5 material, definitely. I think Toy Story 3 hurt her placement on the list a lot. And once we talk about Marlon, that's kind of the same thing for him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, her role in Toy Story 3 doesn't really matter. Like, my placement is 100% based on Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
So I understand the complaint because
I just have to, take into account every medium, every movie the character has been a part of.
Like Sid. Fair. So we'll go to Robert. Did you want to say anything?
I will quick. Shut up. I will quick. I agree with Boatman exactly that she's very lost in Toy Story 3. But I'm about to make the opposite argument about why I like Marlon. So I shouldn't make that argument too much because I'm kind of hypocritical in that sense in this list. But yeah, Toy Story 2, she's fantastic in. I think she's a little bit too, especially in Toy Story 3, she's a little bit too, yeehaw, I'm still here, remember? But her character is integral in Toy Story 2. She has some of the best scenes of Toy Story 2. When She Loved Me is a great, arguably, that in the first couple minutes of Up, arguably the best Pixar has ever done. Genuinely, both of those scenes are probably in the top 3 or 5 Pixar scenes ever. Joan Cusack, great voice performance. When she's arguing with Woody about going back in the box or not, fantastic stuff. It's a great character. She just didn't quite make it there for me. She was, I think, my number 12 before she got cut.
I won't. Yeah, that's fair. I won't.
I can't argue at all with her being included. She just didn't make my personal list for my favorite characters.
I will just basically touch it this way, is where I see it as this character is, she's wrapped, I wouldn't say wrapped up by 2, but with 3, she's went through her struggles. She's now a part of the gang. She feels comfortable, and they just underused her, but that doesn't erase what she's done and who she is in the second one. So that's only my viewpoint why I would include her, because 3, she doesn't have that struggle anymore. She's learned to adapt to it and be happy with it. So
I have bad news, folks. I've heard that she's in one scene in Toy Story 4.
Spoiler alert!
I'm just saying, it's on the Twitters.
Well, they've already added you can't have 2 strong women. You can only have 1 strong woman. So Bo Peep apparently is that part.
Totally.
Way to go, Pixar morons. Yeah, should have included her more. I heard that too, and that's kind of sad. So let's see how big of a hypocrite Robert actually is. What is your 3?
Me? Oh, we're doing one at a time. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I forgot Bowman, actually. Bowman's next.
Yeah.
My bad.
My number 3 is Buzz Lightyear.
Okay, everybody had it at different points. You had it the highest, so you can talk first. Why about Buzz?
No, Buzz Lightyear.
Is this normal Buzz or Spanish Buzz? Or the second Buzz that shows up in 2?
I mean, Spanish Buzz and regular Buzz are basically the same person.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
you said all Buzz Lightyears are the same.
No,
Rude.
that buzz is literally in the same body.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
The second buzz does not count because that's a different buzz. You've got the wrong buzz there, Cody. You've got the wrong buzz.
Yeah. We watched
Anyway, I think Buzz Lightyear has one of the best character arcs in the series. I think that in the first one, him kind of having to go through the realization of that he is a toy, that he's this inanimate thing, he's not a space ranger, and that great scene where he basically tries to kill himself by attempting to fly. I don't know why they're laughing, but okay.
They've done this the entire show. They've done this the entire show. They've said snarky comments about both of us.
It was not snarky. It was very actually demeaning about me. The I Will Go Sailing No More sequence of Toy Story. I watched Toy Story like this last weekend. It is great. He sees Sid's dad, you know, the alcoholic, in his chair watching the toy commercials, and then he tries to jump off a ledge. Like that scene is actually really good.
Yeah, it's a great scene. Anyway, but yeah, and then in 2, him kind of now having to play the Woody role and get all the toys together. I think it's some of the funniest moments in the second one. I think honestly, he probably would have been my number 1 if I didn't. I don't dislike him in the third one, but I think he has less of an interesting role in the third one. He probably would have been my number 1, but I think he's great throughout the entire franchise. And yeah, that first one, like you said, that I Will Go Sailing No More is fantastic. And I am Mrs. Nesbit.
Yeah. I remember we were once in a group chat and Cody's nickname in that group chat was Mrs. Nesbit, and every single time Mrs. Nesbit said this in this chat, I died every single time.
I love that sequence. I think the No Sailing No More is very sad because like when he just falls and he ends up being it. I also love the part where Woody's like, "Please give me a hand," and he just tosses his arm up there. There you go, because he doesn't care. He gets revenge. He struggles to make it high on people's lists, and I get that because he's going against probably, and we'll talk about it, one of the strongest characters in animated history. Like, but to have screen time against Woody and still be one of the most memorable characters, and to have those for him to learn the difference in the first one, to accept that, but also hit with that realization that there's, you know, of the toys, there's multiple, and then 3 kind of be like the take on the hero role a little bit at times, but I think they make him really slapstick in the third one. That kind of annoys me.
Honestly, that's my biggest problem with Toy Story 3. Is my biggest problem with, like, I think that movie's fine. I think that movie's okay. People worship that movie, and I don't understand why. My biggest problem with that movie is what is Buzz's character in that movie, because he is wasted as a character, and he is way too slapsticky, like you said.
Yeah, it's the same problem I have with Guardians 2. That they take Drax beautiful comedic role and just abandon all his character and just makes him perform stand up behind a brick wall. It's for slapstick, it's for approval, like the Spanish sequence and stuff like that. Like, it's funny for like kids that age, but when you grow up knowing Buzz, like, that's just, you're treating him like an idiot almost at that point, instead of being like the character he has made. Maggie had Buzz the lowest, so kind of like, why is he that low for you? And Robert had 1 spot off from Boatman, so kind of touch on that. So
really, it's just that I like the other characters more. It's nothing against Buzz. It's just that he never stuck with me the way that the characters that I put above him have. And yeah, it's not his fault in any way. I agree with everything that you've said. It's just, that I like these other characters more. And I would agree with what you said about how putting him against Woody kind of makes it hard. Because when you said no duos, I was like, great, well, I'm just going to pick 1 from each one. I didn't think about it. So originally he wasn't even on my list because I picked the other one. But I was like, no, I should add him back. But that's my explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 3 definitely ruins the character, which makes it drop. But Robert? Anything
Yeah,
you need to add?
Buzz is my number 4. Still a great character. Plays off of Woody very well. Even like the dumb Buzz when he's like, I gotta play with my new dad at the end of Toy Story 2. Hilarious. Like that stuff is really funny when there's like just the aisle full of Buzzes. And yeah, Buzz is probably, I think at the start of the franchise, Buzz is my favorite character in Toy Story.
Yeah.
And then as the movie, I think he's the best part of Toy Story. Toy Story 1. I think Buzz is the best part of Toy Story 1. And then Toy Story 2, him leading the mission, like as far as just entertainment value,
he's the funniest part of that movie.
Yeah, he's the funniest part of that movie. And then I think his character really is really hurt by the third one. Yes. But that doesn't take away from what he does in the first two. Like Woody definitely becomes much more of the emotional focus of the franchise as the story goes on. But in that first movie, Buzz is perfect. He's an amazing character, and that's why he's my number 4. He's obviously below Woody on my list because of how the franchise decides to take the story. Right. But in those first 2 movies, he's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I was to follow up on that. Really, the reason he's so much lower is because he stops being the main character. He's only the main character in the first movie when they are together as the main characters. And so I know he is a big part of the second one, but the second one isn't about him. It's about Woody. And the third one's not about him.
Not even a little bit.
So that's why he is where he is on my list.
Fair enough. Okay. Take it away, Robert. 3.
All right. My number 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
My number 3 is Marlin.
Okay.
I think I have him the highest.
You definitely do.
I think that I've heard it's the same kind of argument that like the second movie doesn't really help him, but the second movie isn't his movie.
He's in that movie a lot.
He's not. No, he's not. He's not in Finding Dory very much.
I'd say
I think that the second movie diverts focus from him because the movie's not called Finding Marlin; it's Finding Dory. So I understand that he takes a secondary role in that movie. I don't love that movie a lot. I think that movie's like, again, it's fine. It's good.
It's very kiddie.
Yeah, like pre-Coco, post Inside Out, it's the best, but that's a pretty low bar. I think that movie is like good, and Marlin isn't the focus of it, nor should he be. It's very kiddie, like you said. But in Finding Nemo is probably, besides Incredibles, the Pixar movie I've seen the most. That's the one that we like watch dozens of times every single day.
We made shirts.
Yeah, we made T-shirts. That's
with clownfish on.
That might be the first
with puffy paint.
That might be the first movie we ever saw in theaters. Was Finding Nemo.
It's the first one that I remember.
That we remember seeing. Yeah. So Finding Nemo. Yeah, I remember. Mom
it
says
ages us a little bit.
Mom says I saw Tarzan in theaters.
I would say I feel like I saw other ones. I just don't.
Anyways, Finding Nemo. Marlin is the main character, and he is incredible. He is a fatherly journey, and it really is that story of family. Of you do anything for family, and it's the Fast and Furious thing, right? But you really do. He is a father who doesn't have the best relationship with his son, but his son goes missing, and suddenly his world has fallen apart, and he does everything. He crosses oceans. He meets high turtles. He just does all of this stuff. His adventure in Finding Nemo, in my opinion, is the best adventure, like the best story of a single character in any Pixar movie. I think that his story, his travels that he goes on, is so amazing. And the tragedy that's involved in it too. The first scene where all of those eggs are killed, and he raises his one son that he raises Nemo, and he's so overprotective. And I kind of related to that because I felt like in our very young childhood, we were kind of protected too, a little bit too much. But I think that his commitment as a father and as just a family member, somebody you care about, is so inspiring. So I think Marlin is a great character, and Albert Brooks voicing is great.
I think that's a correct choice. But I have to bring it up that we've already said it, but like saying, I think the second one ruins him a lot, because that first one, he is put in he is so broken and so hurt, and builds up so many walls around him to keep the one thing that he has left alive. And that scene that when Marlin when Nemo looks at him and is like swims away to go touch the butt, and like he's like, "You get back here right now!" And to see then him taken away and the almost the panic and the upset and him just swimming to try to get to him is so sad in that movie. But to see his journey. I also, regardless, I still love his joke from the first one when he talks about the sea mollusk and the cucumber. I think that is fantastic. It kills me. It kills me more as an adult now than it did when I was a kid. I was like, this is just stupid. But now I'm like, that's comedic. Like, that's so funny when he starts talking about it. I agree that it's not the second one is not his story, but he is in it a lot. He's in it a lot. But it's also very kiddish, and it takes the real adult side of Finding Dory to it. But I think Marlon, alone in the first one, the reason why I say Jesse is totally passable from the second one, I think his first performance stands by itself. He is who he is from that one. He learns all his lessons in that one. So, yeah, Marlon's fine. Everybody had Marlon on the list, but Maggie and Boatman had it quite a bit lower. Yeah. Maggie had it at the lowest at 10, and Boatman had it at 9. So kind of tell you why this character does not resonate as high for you guys.
I mean, for me, I don't know what it is. Like, it's just that, like, when I think of Finding Nemo, even though he is the main character, he's just not who I think about. When I think about Finding Nemo, I think about Nemo. I think about Dory. I think about the turtles. I think about the sharks. I think about all the things that he did and all the characters he encountered, but I don't think about him, which is why he's so low on my list. And I guess that's kind of a weak argument, and it might be unfair to him, but that's just like, I get everything that Robert said. His arc is really good, but like as a kid, he was the most forgettable character. He was there to move the plot along.
That's fair. And Boatman.
Basically for the same reason that Robert was talking about Buzz in Toy Story 3. I think he's turned into a little bit too much of a joke in Finding Dory. He has no real character. He's got the ooh, Becky, Becca, ooh, what's going on? It's kind of kiddie, it's kind of stupid. I think they kind of really nerfed that character. He's great in the first one, but I really don't like what they do to him in Finding Dory, and that's my problem.
Yeah.
I have a question to the panel, just because I'm curious. No one had Dory on the list.
Yeah.
It's because she's annoying.
Okay.
I think she's good in the first one.
That's my only viewpoint. Is she too annoying for the list? Because I think when people think of Finding Nemo, a lot of people go right to Dory, because I think that's why Dory got a second one.
Yeah.
But my only viewpoint is, what about Dory does not resonate with you guys?
Dory's great. Go ahead.
Okay.
I've talked enough. I was just gonna say, I think that she is a standout. Ellen DeGeneres, like Dory as a character is a standout in Finding Nemo, but there's other standouts to that movie that weren't on my list. People like Gil, like Crush. There are other characters that I think stand out more. To a lot of people, I think she is the standout, and that's why she got a sequel. But that movie, Finding Dory, like doesn't do anything new for her character. It brings in the family aspect, but it doesn't like. I think she's a secondary character that should stay a secondary character. And I think putting her as the focus of her movie, of her own movie, makes that movie really scatterbrained like the character, and it doesn't work.
Valid point. Anybody else want to touch on that? I think that's actually really good.
Yeah, I think as far as Finding Nemo, they hit that perfect balance of knowing like her memory loss type thing and finding the right balance of making that like just kind of annoying enough to where it's annoying for Marlon, but it's not annoying for the audience. It's funny because she has that balance where we're laughing at kind of Marlon's pain and her forgetfulness, and I think it has that balance. She has really no one to properly counteract her in Finding Dory. Sure, she has Ed O'Neill's character, Hank the Octopus, but he's never going to live up to Marlon. And I think she's great in like a supporting role, like Robert said. I don't think she's a good focus, and I think they forget about that balance in Finding Dory.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. So, number 2, Maggie. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Elastigirl.
Okay. I
I'm
think
lower. I don't think Boatman has it.
Oh, okay.
and Bowman does not have Elastigirl. So
Alright.
that's
Instead.
Gotcha. All right. So again, I'm sorry that I'm a woman and I identify with female
Don't apologize.
characters.
so
but-
brave.
You can't control it.
I mean, she's just awesome. Obviously, she has these great powers. She's a really powerful superhero. She's able to run with the best of them, including her husband. But at the same time, she's able to find love with him, and they have a family, and it's beautiful. And she has. Why are you laughing at me, Cody?
Just how you were. They have a family, and it's
And
like beautiful, like that. I'm not thinking. You're not wrong, but it's just funny how you describe.
And then her motherly instinct. That's not why. Robert is being inappropriate about how they animated her butt. Anyway,
I just said she thick.
Anyway, her struggles with her husband and trying to relate to him now that they're out of the superhero world, her struggles relating to her children and trying to convince them to, not be who they are because of the world that they live in. And I think she's one of the few characters that Incredibles 2 actually helps. Because, she is more of the focus because she is a strong character. Like, she can go out, she can fight crime, she can do it. She's smart, she's got it figured out. And she's basically like a very inspiring female character, basically.
I don't know why you looked at me when you said that.
I don't know, because I ran out of words.
All right, so besides that she's thick, Robert, why do you have her on your list?
I had her on my. That was a joke. First off, she's my number 6. She's pretty high on my list. Like I said, Incredibles is my favorite Pixar movie, and I think she. I don't think there really is a main character of the Incredibles. No. Like her and Bob and Dash and Violet, like they all, and even Syndrome, like those 5 characters all interplay between each other perfectly. That is a perfectly told story. Incredibles is amazing, and Incredibles 2 is what pushes her over the edge. Because I was when I was making my short list and started cutting people, I'm like, okay, I have every character from Incredibles on here. I have Edna Mode on here. Like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna start cutting people? And I'm like, well, I want to cut Dash, but man, his scene on the water is so good. I want to cut Violet, but no, she's really good in this. Like, it was so hard to cut people. And Incredibles 2 really is what pushes Elastigirl over the edge as the best character from the Incredibles movies. So I kept Syndrome as well because I think he's one of the best Pixar villains, and we need more villains on the list. But I mean, Mr. Incredible, Dash, and Violet are all characters that deserve to be on the list as well.
I was surprised with no Bob Parr, but
no Bob Parr at all. But Elastigirl, man,
that's kind of a dick.
The second one, just really pushed her character to where
new heights.
It up, yeah. Retweet.
Boatman, 2 sentences why you really hate women. Just kidding.
Guys, I just completely forgot about Elastigirl.
Okay.
That's fair.
Honestly, if I had a chance to
she's forgettable.
If I had a chance to redo my list, she honestly would make top 5. Yeah. I think she would make top 5.
Okay. All right. So we are going to number 2, which will be a punt, I believe, or a move up.
What was your 2?
No. So go ahead, Boatman. What's your
2? It's Woody.
We have to.
Woody. Woody. Okay.
Yeah, we have to.
Robert, what's yours?
My number 1 is Mike. Or excuse me, my number 2 is Mike Wazowski.
Punt.
Your number 2 is not Mike.
Yes,
it is. Yours. Okay, you're right. Okay. All right. Back to Maggie.
I'm the unique one, guys.
I wanted to put her number 1 on my list so badly.
Okay, so my number 1.
Oh shit! I did. It was my. Yeah, it was.
My number 1 is Joy from Inside Out, and the reason that Joy is on the list and my number 1 is just because of how her character and the journey that she goes through resonates with me as an adult. I know that Inside Out is really about kids and them starting to understand feelings, but for me, as I've gotten older, I've been struggling more with like feelings and things like that. So Inside Out really spoke to me, and just realizing that you don't have to be happy all the time in order to have real emotions, that sadness is sometimes okay. Like, yikes, that gets me right in the heart. And that is why Joy is so high on my list. Plus, Amy Poehler does a great job. I think that, she kills it as the voice actor, and just the animation is great, and she really drives the movie forward.
That's 100% valid. I may be the only one at this point, but I think Sadness is amazing in that movie.
So I was really struggling. Which one do I put? Do I put Sadness or do I put Joy? And I ultimately picked Joy because Sadness always understood what Joy had to learn.
Wow, that's a.
And so that's how I ended up where I am today.
You just justified it for me, so that's fantastic. Because when she's grabbing the things at the beginning, she knows that it's okay to accept sadness, and Joy doesn't get it. So that's actually really beautiful. Robert forgot she was on the list, but you're actually on the list. So you're
down. That was like an hour ago. I already forgot. But no,
longest episode ever.
Everything Maggie said is true. Inside Out is the Pixar movie that I have seen the most in my adult life. I obviously Incredibles and Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo, like when we were kids, we watched 1,000 times, but in my adult life, I have seen Inside Out the most, and it has resonated the most. I think it is the most mature Pixar movie. I think it is, Incredibles is my favorite, but Pixar or Inside Out, it's in my top 3. I think the way that the emotions interact and the message behind it, it's good and entertaining for kids, but at the same time, knowing that you don't have to just feel one emotion at the same time, that one emotion can cause another. You can feel sadness knowing that joy is coming. That's the whole point of the core memories in that movie, is that sadness doesn't take away joy forever. It just puts it in a different perspective. And I think that emotional awareness is as an adult, really something cool to think about and understand. And I wanted to put Bing Bong on my list.
He was in my honorable mentions, but it's only for the one scene.
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It just couldn't be above these characters who had so much more screen time and much more time with the character. But Joy's in a relationship with Bing Bong. Take her to the moon for me. That scene breaks me. I've seen that movie a dozen or more times, and that scene still breaks me. And it's not because of Bing Bong sitting there waving. It's because of Joy looking back and understanding why he did it. And even just the couple seconds before they get out of there, when I think that's maybe the most perfect animation Pixar has ever done, when she's sitting there hugging the core memories, and you can see the little specks off her character. Oh my God, that scene is perfect. The movie is perfect. I love Inside Out. And Joy.
Why is she 10?
Because I like these characters more.
Okay.
What you said about the art is very true, and what you said about the movie's message of emotion is very true. But as far as these characters themselves, I like these characters more than I like the character.
I would have put Lewis Black because he literally is me. But no, I think the scene that kills me every time in that movie is literally Riley when she's with her parents and says, "I miss home."
Yeah.
She hugs them at the end after coming back from the bus, and they all hug and just collapse together. Oh my God, they're crying right now.
It's a simple line, but it means everything because it's the final time that Joy, and I've never had it put the way that Maggie explained it, so I completely understand it. Sadness through the whole time. Joy had to learn it, so that's beautiful. And then it was put, Boatman, why do you hate women? Two sentences.
Joy is my number 11. She's really great.
Yeah.
And Tommy goes just better, and Sid is better. That's cool. It's cool.
And Tommy goes, no matter what, was always going to be my number 10.
Okay. So
always
here we go. We can finally talk about it. Woody. No, Mike. Sorry, we'll go Mike first. Mike Wazowski. Tell us why Mike is your number 1 and your Hangouts image, Boatman.
I think Mike is the most original, hilarious, just fantastic character. Everything about the character is perfect. The comedy, the character arc, the voice work, the animation, the character design. They got everything absolutely perfect with this character. He's just incredibly funny. The way he works off of Sully, the way he works off of Celia. He's the only one who I think the prequel doesn't kind of neuter or ruin. I think that his arc is still really fantastic in Monsters U. I think, yeah, he's great throughout like the entire franchise, and he's just hilarious. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me, and just everything about him. There's that great little scene with him and Randall where it's like, so that means the floor will be painted, and that interaction I love. Everything about those. He's just hilarious, and that's because of Billy Crystal. It's because of the animation. It's because of the fantastic writing.
I think Billy Crystal sells that because I'm a big fan of Billy Crystal. I think his humor is one that resonates with me the most from all his movies, and he takes Mike Wazowski to a whole nother level. I think Mike is a brilliant character. I don't know if I'd put him 1, but I completely understand him in the top 5 because he is one of the most complex characters. And kind of, I think it helps him in Monsters U to see where he comes and to see him accept the role and to help and like also have to learn that what they've been doing all along is wrong and try to help his friend with the problem that he is facing with a child that he's learned that was bad the entire time but is actually good. Everybody had Mike on their list. Maggie, you had a little why is Mike lower on your list?
I mean, I think it's mostly just because I like the other characters more. I think that he is a great character, and I agree with everything that has been said about him. Honestly, I like him better in Monsters University. I find him way more interesting in Monsters University than Monsters Inc., which might be like sacrilegious to say, but he's great as he is the main character of that movie, and I really liked that take on him. I think he exists more to be funny in the first one than anything else, which is obviously they cast a comedian as his voice, so that makes sense. But that's just sort of why he's lower on my list.
I think it also is this is the most true duo in Pixar. Because Mike and Sully are literally a duo throughout the entire thing. Woody goes on his own adventures at times. So does Buzz. So does Marl and Dory. Stuff like that. You have these different characters branch off, but Sully and Mike have always been connected together. So it's hard to break them and to realize one is better than the other because they are honestly the true duo in Pixar for me. Robert, you had it at 2.
Mike's my number 2. I love this character. I think if there's one takeaway from this entire show, it's that Monsters U is a really underrated movie, at least from us two. I think that movie is great, and I love that he's the main character of that movie. My favorite part of him, like comedically in the first one, is Randall calls him a cretin, and he goes, "Actually, it's cretin. If you're going to insult me, do it properly." That's just hilarious. But yeah, Billy Crystal's voice acting in the upper echelon of Pixar voice actors, and there's a lot of them, of like voice performances that fit that character. Definitely can make an argument for Mike Wazowski being number 1. You see his interactions with Sully. They are attached at the hip. Even in the prequel, when we see them butting heads all the time, we see Mike in more of a leadership role in the prequel that we don't see him in Monsters, Inc., but when he takes control of their fraternity with like all the new characters, you know, Terry and Squishy and Don and all those. But like, what, you were gonna put Don on your list?
No, you just had to list all of the names because you know them.
Actually, I forgot the name of the fraternity. I was gonna do that instead, but I forgot. What was that?
Yeah, Uzma Kappa.
Kappa. That I was thinking of Roar Omega Roar, but that was the like one that Randall joined. So I think that Mike is a character that is established very, very well in the first film, and that he is a standout part of the first film, but he's not the emotional weight. And then in the second film, which is something that Pixar doesn't do very often, is they don't really like when they do try to give their secondary characters more light, it doesn't always go well. In first film versus
secondary character in the first movie.
I'm saying not the main character. I think Sully is the main character of the first film. Maybe even Boo.
I think I agree with Cody where it's like impossible to call one over the other in the first movie.
That's fair. And I think Mike taking the light more, to use split terms, taking the light. But I think Mike taking the emotional weight and getting much more of his backstory is really powerful. And the message that Monsters University sends is like, it doesn't matter what you look like, what your background is like, what other people think your skills or your limitations are. It's similar to that Ratatouille thing that anybody.
It's like every single Pixar movie has the same message.
It's very inspiring, and I think Monsters University does it well. Wazowski, great character number 2. I've talked too much.
You didn't file your paperwork, Wazowski.
Oh,
Woody.
he's watching.
Always watching you. All right, we're going to Woody finally. Robert, you had him the highest. Tell us why.
I did. I have him at number 1. Because I think that people call me the Toy Story 3 hater, and I'm not. I just think that movie's fine. But I was talking about when I talked about Buzz, as the franchise of Toy Story goes on, Woody becomes more of the emotional weight. And I think that while I don't love Toy Story 3, I love him in it. The So Long partner. The So Long partner is amazing. The stuff at the end where they all hold hands on his cue. Like everything with him, like learning more about Woody's Roundup, and the second one is great. And then making all these new friends. He is a selfish character in the first movie, but he goes beyond that in for friendship. Like, I think Woody, as the franchise goes on, becomes a better and better and better character. So that's why he's my number 1. Tom Hanks, brilliant. Yeah, I don't necessarily worship at the altar of every single movie that he's in, but I think he's the best Pixar character.
Woody is clearly, I think top 3. I'm okay with him in anybody's top 3. He's just fantastic. Again, from the first one to the second one to even the third one, he finally realizes when he's finally dropped off. It's so emotional. It's so sad. So we will go to Boatman. You have it at 2. Why is Woody so high for you?
Yeah, I think there's a type of character that's very hard to get right, and that's the everyman character. I think that's a character that people can kind of be like, yeah, he's good. You relate with him, but you find other characters, the supporting characters, who are allowed to be more wacky. You find them more memorable. And Woody isn't as kind of big or have these super quirks like Buzz or Jesse or anyone else in the trilogy. He's more of a grounded in reality character. But the way that they're able to make all of his struggles feel so real, so relatable, his emotions, his flaws, everything feels so tethered to how we would feel. It just feels perfect. Like, it completely understands how this character feels and how this character works. And like, Woody is the reason that the Toy Story movies are so beloved. Without Woody, that franchise doesn't have that, stableness. I think it's still a good franchise. I think Woody is the perfect character for that franchise.
I agree. Maggie.
So the reason that he's just a bit lower for me is because I find him super obnoxious in the first movie. Like, because I watched it as a kid and I was like, Woody, what the fuck are you doing? Clearly you and Buzz should be friends. Why are you being this way? And that just never has left me, that feeling about him. But he really has grown a lot in the second movie. And then in the third, but for me in the second movie, it's about Jesse for me. And then in the third is where he really, I think, has his moment with the ending and all that sort of stuff. And I will honestly acknowledge that I put him where he was because he is the flagship character of the studio. And so you can't not have him on the list. And that's just sort of where I am with that.
Fair. Okay, guys. So that was Top Pixar. Sorry, guys, this is our longest episode. You get Robert on a call, and he'll talk for years. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, buddy. So
you're also right. I'm sorry.
Huh?
I said I love you too, but you're also right, and I am sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's surprising you and Tim finished under the time last time.
I know, right?
That was super impressive. I think I had to cut people off. I let people talk more this episode, but it's fine. So you're number 10 for your combined list. 10 is Miguel. Number 9 is Remy. Number 8 is Syndrome.
Yeah.
Number 7 is Jesse. Number 6 is Marlon. Number 5 is Joy. Yeah, it's for you too, basically. Your number 4 is Elastigirl. Number 3 is Buzz Lightyear. Number 2 and number 1 are pretty much tied. I had to go to people for a tiebreaker.
Were they actually tied with points?
Yeah, they were tied with points.
Wow.
2 is Mike Wazowski, and 1 is Woody. It was tied with the exactly same points. So that is your list. I think this is a very strong list. It's kind of like a pairing of everybody's list to a T. Some people had some ridiculous choices. Some people had some choices outplaced. But overall, I don't think this list sucks. I think this is a great representation of what Pixar does well, and that is character work. So for Maggie, for Robert, for Caleb, for Cody, guys, thank you for being on this episode, and tune in next time for Your List Sucks.